Two types of cheese are being recalled nationwide after being linked to a listeria outbreak.
Cheeses are creamy, melty, and really tempting. But not all cheeses are safe. Some popular varieties can hide bacteria, high sodium, and additives that sneakily attack your heart, kidneys, and blood pressure. Today, we're counting down 6 cheeses you should never put in your body and revealing the 2 that are actually safe. Starting off with number 1, soft, unpasteurized cheeses.
That pillowy center isn't luxury. It's a bacteria hotel where listeria checks in but never checks out. You cut into a wheel of brie and steam rises. A pillowy, mushroom-scented rind gives way to a molten, buttery center that slides over the fork. That first impression sells the whole fantasy. Softness, luxury, a flavor that feels grown up. The betrayal is that many soft cheeses, especially when made from unpasteurized raw milk or aged in ways that leave the interior moist and cool, are exactly the kinds of products where Listeria monocytogenes can survive and grow. That's a real documented threat for older adults. Listeria doesn't usually wreck the day for a healthy 20-year-old. For people aged 65 and older, and for anyone with a weakened immune system, Listeria is different. It can move beyond the gut and cause invasive disease, high fever, stiff neck, confusion, and bloodstream infections. Pregnant people are also at special risk, but the same vulnerability applies to elderly immune systems. Public health agencies have repeatedly linked outbreaks of listeriosis to soft cheeses like brie and camembert, and have issued guidance to avoid unpasteurized soft cheeses for high-risk groups. Those are not hypothetical warnings. CDC outbreak pages document clear links. What happens inside the wheel? Soft ripened cheeses keep moisture and a gentle acidity that some bacteria tolerate. Pasteurization kills many pathogens in milk. But raw milk cheeses skip that step, which can leave pockets where listeria survives the aging process. Even pasteurized soft cheeses can be contaminated later by equipment or the environment if a facility has a listeria problem. Outbreaks tied to processing plants and retail products show contamination can enter after the milk stage. In plain terms, soft texture plus moisture plus handling equals a place listeria can hide. The CDC explicitly lists soft cheeses made from raw milk as higher-risk foods for listeriosis, and recent outbreak investigations have traced cases to brie and camembert products. Those are clear, load-bearing facts you should weigh if you're shopping for an older relative. Have you ever picked a soft cheese because it looked fancy, and then thought twice after a news headline? Drop the cheese in the city. Did you keep it or toss it? That melt-in-your-mouth center? It's delicious, and exactly the texture Listeria prefers. Soft, runny cheese can be a joy for your palate and a real threat for an older immune system. When health matters more than taste, skip the wheel. If this is making you check your fridge, hit that subscribe button. But if bacteria wasn't bad enough, wait until you see what's hiding in number 2. Fresh Latin cheeses, queso fresco, cotija, and other fresh raw milk cheeses. Many fresh Latin-style cheeses are made from unpasteurized milk or handled in small plants where sanitation lapses can slip through. Public health agencies have repeatedly linked listeria outbreaks to queso fresco and cotija. The FDA and CDC ran a high-profile investigation into a multi-state listeria outbreak tied to these cheeses. That's not old history. It's recent and regionally repeated. In the CDC's outbreak reports, people who were hospitalized and those in the highest risk categories included older adults. The way these cheeses are made, often with minimal aging and moisture retained, creates an environment where pathogens that enter during production will survive until consumption. For older people whose immune systems clear bacteria slowly, a single serving can mean hospital time rather than a day of stomachache. Behind the recall headlines, queso fresco is often made in smaller local facilities or even at home. Traceability and consistent pasteurization are less reliable than in large industrial plants. When inspection or testing finds contamination in a plant's product or equipment, the CDC and FDA call recalls and warn consumers to discard products. Those are the betrayal of trust moments. A bag labeled fresh and authentic can carry a pathogen that severely harms an older body. Recent FDA recall pages and CDC investigation updates are direct proof. So avoid fresh, unpasteurized, Latin-style cheeses if you're in a high-risk group. If you buy them, check that they were made from pasteurized milk and buy only from producers with clear sanitation records and current FDA or state inspection reports. At restaurants, ask whether the queso is made in-house and whether pasteurized milk was used. If the answer is vague, don't take the risk. Ever eaten a fresh cheese that later made someone in your family sick? Tell the product name and outcome. It helps others avoid the same brand. Fresh doesn't mean safe when the milk skipped pasteurization or the plant has sanitation gaps. When a fresh cheese causes a multi-state outbreak, it's a public health red flag. For seniors, that red flag should be a bright "don't buy." Now let's unwrap the sodium bombs disguised as convenient slices. Transitioning to number 3, processed cheese products. That perfect melt isn't cheese. It's emulsified vegetable oil wearing a dairy costume. Processed cheeses are often loaded with sodium and contain phosphate additives and stabilizers that push them from cheese into ultra-processed food. You're paying for convenience that's poisoning your blood pressure. For older adults with high blood pressure or kidney disease, those additives are more than bad nutrition. They can interfere with medication and speed kidney strain. Sodium math hits heavy. Many processed slices contain 250 to 400 milligrams of sodium per slice, depending on brand and style. That's an instant chunk of the recommended daily limit for seniors who often target 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams or less. Stack 2 slices on a sandwich, add soup or crackers, and your day's sodium budget is almost gone. High sodium worsens hypertension and fluid retention. For people on diuretics or heart meds, that can mean dizziness, swelling, or dangerous blood pressure spikes. Nutrition. Facts for common processed cheese products back this up. Phosphate additives are the other hidden risk. Phosphates are used as emulsifiers and stabilizers in processed cheeses. They are highly absorbable and raise the body's phosphate load more than natural cheeses do. Scientific reviews link high dietary phosphate, especially from additives, to cardiovascular risk and to faster decline in kidney function. For seniors with chronic kidney disease or declining renal clearance, excess phosphate is a direct clinical concern because kidneys can't remove it efficiently. Kidney foundations explicitly warn about processed cheeses and phosphate additives. Treat processed singles and cheese spreads as occasional convenience foods, not daily staples. If you need a meltable cheese, pick natural cheeses with lower sodium, or look for products labeled "no phosphate additives" and check sodium on the label. For people with kidney disease, discuss phosphate limits with your clinician. That single slice may change lab priorities. Which cheese slice surprised you with its saltiness? Drop the brand and how many slices you used on a sandwich. You might be eating half a day's salt. Convenience melts your sandwich, but it might also melt your sodium budget and add invisible phosphate baggage. Processed cheese gives quick flavor, but for seniors on blood pressure meds or with kidney concerns, it's the kind of shortcut you shouldn't make habitually. Read the label or skip the slice. In short, aged doesn't equal safe if the starting milk or the plant environment is contaminated. The 60-day aging rule is a point people mention as reassurance. The FDA and many food safety rules historically treated cheeses aged 60 days or longer as lower risk. But recent science and outbreak investigations show that certain pathogens can survive aging in some conditions, and new studies, plus outbreak findings, have renewed scrutiny of that rule. That means an artisanal cheddar aged in a small facility may not be safer than pasteurized milk cheeses unless you can verify strict controls, testing, and traceability. For seniors, that's a real trust problem. Why this matters in practical terms: a single small wedge bought from a farmer's market or served at a potluck can be a vector if the producer had a contamination event. Illnesses from E. coli, salmonella, or listeria can move beyond stomach upset in older adults. They can require hospitalization or cause organ complications. The rustic label and the farm fresh image sell warmth and authenticity, but they don't replace validated sanitation, regular testing, and safe aging procedures. Bought a farm cheese at a market and later saw a recall? Name the vendor and the product. That helps everyone know which markets to avoid. Small batch sounds charming until the small batch lets a single contaminated lot reach many plates. Coming in at number 6, brined and salty cheeses, feta, halloumi, some goat cheeses, tangy bite, sodium trap, and kidney pressure risk. You crumble feta over a salad and the first forkful is bright, salty, and pleasing. That creamy promise hides a salty trap. The betrayal is less about microbes and more about what happens in the body afterward. Many brined cheeses are soaked in salty solutions and deliver a high sodium load in tiny servings. For seniors who manage blood pressure with medication or who have reduced kidney function, that salt matters in a way that tastes bad only later. Nutrition guidance is blunt. Older adults usually need lower daily sodium targets to protect blood pressure and heart health. The American Heart Association and Kidney Care Guidance warn that common serving sizes of brine cheese can contain a significant percentage of the recommended daily sodium. For someone aiming for 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams daily, a few tablespoons of crumbled feta or a slice of halloumi can take a big bite out of that budget. That's a direct health risk. More sodium means harder blood pressure control, more fluid retention, and more stress on the heart and kidneys. There's another angle. Brined cheeses are sometimes sold as traditional and artisanal, but some regional varieties are made from raw or lightly treated milk. That's not the dominant risk. The main practical problem is sodium plus the tendency to pair brined cheese with other salty foods, olives, cured, meats, pickles, which multiplies the day's total sodium quickly. For older adults on diuretics, the sudden jump can shift electrolyte balance and cause dizziness, lightheadedness, or swelling. What this looks like on the plate, a small salad turns fresh into salty. You may feel thirst, mild swelling in the ankles, or a blood pressure blip. Those are early signals that the snack math is working against you. If you're watching kidney labs or on strict blood pressure control, tasting a couple of tablespoons of brined cheese can change your next clinic numbers. Does one crumbled forkful of feta ever become a whole cup in your salad bowl? Tell us where you overdid it and how you trimmed the salt next time. That bright, tangy crumble tastes gourmet and quietly eats your sodium budget one bite at a time. Brined cheeses are flavor shorthands. For seniors on blood pressure or kidney regimens, flavor shouldn't cost your labs. Use less, rinse more, or pick a lower sodium swap. Coming in at number 4, blue-veined cheeses. Roquefort, Gorgonzola, Stilton, Sharp Bite, Mold Risk, and Tyramine Surprises. Those blue veins aren't artisanal character. They're mold highways carrying compounds that can spike your blood pressure into dangerous territory. You slice into a wedge of blue and the aroma hits. Barn cellar, cracked pepper, a wet earth tang that promises a serious mouthful. The blue veins give the cheese a dramatic look and a punchy flavor that makes crackers feel like an afterthought. That sensory show sells the product as artisan and intensely flavorful. The betrayal is that blue cheeses carry a set of real risks that matter for older adults, from allergenic mold and certain contamination patterns to biochemical compounds that interact with some medications. First, the mold angle. Blue cheeses are intentionally ripened with penicillium cultures that give them the familiar veins and tang. For most healthy people, those molds are fine, but vulnerable eaters, older adults with weakened immune systems, can react badly when opportunistic pathogens or unexpected contaminants appear in the rind or on the surface. Public health assessments show that while many blue cheeses are safe when produced and handled correctly, specific varieties and certain production batches have been the subject of contamination recalls and testing concerns. Safety reviews rate some blue cheeses as lower risk and others as moderate risk for vulnerable groups, depending on water activity, sodium, and processing. That means the aesthetic blue streaks that made you reach for the wedge can also hide a safety margin that isn't the same for everyone. Second, the tyramine issue. Aged cheeses, especially many blue types, concentrate biogenic amines like tyramine during fermentation and ripening. Tyramine can trigger big blood pressure spikes in people taking monoamine oxidase inhibitors, MAOIs, and can also affect others who have unstable blood pressure control. Doctors warn their patients that aged and fermented cheeses are on the avoid list for people on MAOIs because the tyramine load can precipitate dangerous hypertensive reactions. For seniors who may be on older antidepressants or other meds that interact with tyramine, that dramatic blue flavor can come with a real risk. Third, sodium and inflammation. Many blue cheeses are salty. Combined with concentrated fats and proteins, they can nudge blood pressure and inflammatory markers upward when eaten often. If you're on blood pressure meds, heart failure drugs, or kidney monitoring, an impulsive serving of strong blue can make daily sodium control harder. The American Heart Association recommends careful sodium limits for older adults. A single serving of salty aged cheese can be a measurable percentage of that daily limit. What this looks like on the plate and in the body, the first bite may be an explosion of tang and cream, then a dry mouth and a slow throbbing headache if you're sensitive to tyramine. For someone on a MAOI or with labile blood pressure, that headache is not mere discomfort. It's a warning sign. For someone with reduced kidney function, the extra salt and protein change the daily balancing act their kidneys manage. The cheese that feels like a treat can turn into a small medical event. Ever bitten into blue cheese and felt a sudden headache or flushing? Drop the brand. And what happened? It might save someone else a trip to urgent care. The veins that decorate the cheese are the flavor's signature. And the same ripening that makes flavor intense also concentrates tyramine and salt. Blue cheese is a bold statement on a plate. For seniors on certain meds or with blood pressure or kidney trouble, that boldness can be a real, avoidable risk. Sliding to number 5, aged raw milk artisanal cheeses. Farmstead cheddars, certain mountain cheeses. Artisanal raw milk cheeses promise terroir and character. The betrayal is that raw milk, can carry pathogens if the farm or aging process isn't perfect. For high-risk eaters, people over 65, those on immune-suppressing meds, or with kidney problems, the consequences of contamination can be severe. Government investigators found public health agencies including the CDC and FDA have investigated multiple outbreaks tied to raw milk cheeses and raw milk dairy products. Recent investigations have linked E. coli and salmonella infections to raw milk cheeses and have shown that aging alone does not guarantee safety in every setting. The FDA's own sampling and the CDC's outbreak reports demonstrate that raw milk products can carry live pathogens into the supply chain if on-farm hygiene or processing controls fail. Coming in at one of the two that are actually safe, aged, hard cheeses. Think Parmigiano Reggiano or aged Pecorino. Intense flavor, low moisture safety, portion control required. You bite a thin shaving of parm, and the first thing hits. Concentrated milk, toasted nuts, a sharp umami pop that makes pasta taste like celebration. That flavor arrives in a dry, crumbly ribbon, not soft or runny. That texture is the key to why these cheeses are safer than most. The promise on the label is classic, real cheese aged to perfection. The truth is useful. Long aging plus low moisture makes it hard for most pathogens to survive. For older adults, that's a practical safety win. Why it's safer? Hard cheeses are low in water and often high in salt and acidity, a hostile environment for bacteria like listeria and salmonella. Many long-aged cheeses are made and stored under strict conditions. Even if the milk starts with microbes, months of controlled aging reduce the risk that those organisms survive to the finished product. That doesn't mean zero risk. Nothing is zero. But compared with runny brie or fresh queso, an aged Parmesan-style wedge is a much lower microbiological risk for seniors. If you're choosing cheese and worry about infections, this is a better place to start than soft or fresh varieties. Nutrition and senior-relevant facts. One small shaving, about an ounce, of aged hard cheese gives a concentrated punch of protein and calcium, useful for bone and muscle health in older adults. Protein numbers run roughly in the high single digits to about 10 grams per ounce. Calcium and phosphorus are also high, which helps bone strength but matters for people with advanced kidney disease. If your doctor is watching phosphorus, ask first. Also note, aged, hard cheeses tend to be salty. A single ounce can carry several hundred milligrams of sodium, so portion control matters if you're monitoring blood pressure or taking blood pressure meds. Practical swaps, servings, and safety tips. Choose high-quality, reputable brands. If you want parm-style flavor without overdoing sodium, use very small shavings. A tablespoon or two grated over a meal adds flavor with minimal sodium exposure. When dining out, ask for cheese on the side and use it sparingly. If you have kidney disease, check with your clinician about portion limits because the phosphorus and sodium can matter. If you prefer to reduce sodium further, pair a tiny amount of aged cheese with low-sodium whole grains or vegetables so you get flavor without a big salt hit. Storage and handling. Keep the wedge wrapped in wax or parchment and sealed in the fridge. Hard cheese resists mold, but when surface mold appears, cut at least 1 inch around and below the spot. The rest is generally fine. Avoid pre-grated bags that have anti-caking agents and extra sodium when you want clean ingredients. Buy wedges or blocks from trusted suppliers. Supermarket tubs of pre-shredded cheese are convenient but often include added starches and salt that older bodies don't need. Who should still be careful? If you're on strict sodium limits or have advanced kidney disease, aged hard cheese is chemically heavier than it looks. If you're immune suppressed, ask your clinician about what's safe. Aged hard cheese is lower risk than soft cheese, but personal medical context matters. Do you shave parm over everything or save it for special meals? Tell us your favorite tiny sprinkle that makes dinner feel gourmet. A paper-thin shaving of aged cheese gives more flavor than a wedge of soft cheese, so use less, taste more, and keep your labs happy. Aged hard cheeses give real flavor with lower microbial risk. Treat them like a spice, not the whole meal. Coming in at the other actually safe pick, pasteurized, low-sodium cottage cheese. Creamy, high protein, and practical for seniors when you read the label. You spoon a half cup of cottage cheese, and you get a cool, curdy texture that sits satisfyingly on the tongue. It's mild, fresh, and neutral. The kind of dairy you can dress up or keep plain. The label promise is fresh protein. The betrayal many foods pull is the opposite. Packaged cottage labeled creamy is sometimes loaded with salt or stabilizers. But when you pick pasteurized, low-sodium versions, Cottage cheese becomes one of the best everyday dairy choices for older adults. Why it's safe and useful. Pasteurization kills the common bacteria that worry public health teams, and the product's short shelf life in refrigerated supply chains reduces the window for contamination. That matters for seniors. Pasteurized dairy minimizes the infection risk that fresh, unpasteurized products carry. On top of safety, a half cup of cottage cheese typically supplies double-digit grams of protein, often about 12 to 14 grams, which helps preserve muscle mass and supports stability and mobility, important for preventing falls and keeping energy steady on medications. It also brings calcium and B12, nutrients many older adults need. Sodium, labels, and senior-specific notes. Not all cottage cheeses are equal. Regular varieties can be high in sodium, which undermines the snack's value for someone with blood pressure needs. Low-sodium cottage cheese exists and can cut sodium to a manageable level per half cup. Look for brands advertising low sodium, or check the nutrition facts to find options in the low hundreds of milligrams or less. Avoid flavored tubs with fruit and syrup or added sweeteners if you're watching glucose. Practical serving ideas: top plain low-sodium cottage cheese with fresh berries or a few chopped unsalted nuts for fiber and heart-healthy fats. Use it as a sandwich spread instead of processed cheese slices to cut sodium and phosphate additives. Mix with herbs, cucumber, and lemon for a quick dip that replaces heavier, saltier dressings. For people managing diabetes, portioning helps. Cottage cheese fills you with protein and lowers the chance of a sugar spike from carbohydrate-heavy snacks. Storage and handling. Keep it cold and use by the date. Cottage cheese is sold in sealed tubs for a reason. Once opened, keep refrigerated and eat within a few days. If a tub smells off or looks separated beyond the usual, toss it. Don't risk a compromised product. Single-serve tubs reduce the risk of accidental, long-open storage in a fridge used all day. Who should still be careful? If you have late-stage kidney disease, dairy phosphorus can be a concern. Talk with your clinician about portion sizes. Also watch potassium if your clinician flagged it. Cottage cheese is not usually a major source, but diet context matters. Do you prefer cottage cheese sweetened with berries or savory with herbs? Share your favorite low-salt combo. Cottage cheese gives steady protein and a neutral base. Swap it for processed spreads, and your blood pressure will thank you. Pasteurized, low-sodium cottage cheese is a rare everyday snack that's safe, filling, and actually helps seniors stay strong. Just read the label and keep portions sensible. Hey, thanks for watching. What's the worst food experience you've ever had? If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit subscribe for more food truths. Want the next exposé? Click the video on the left right now.